Alright, welcome back to Jordan's Medieval Brawl for the Viper. Spawning here in the red trunks to the lower side. That's the Mayans. A nice archer civilization with a bit of a boon to their eco, or Valas. Spawning on the top side as the Franks. So we're here today on Arabia. This Meso-Civ versus Euro-Civ. Conquerors versus Age of Kings Civ. It's a bit of a blast from the past in terms of the Civ matchups. This version of Arabia, there's actually some little shorefish schools. But players probably be looking to ignore those in favour of just the standard resources. So Valas going to be able to play around a pretty heavy cavalry style, as well as potentially being able to do a fast castle drop on his opponent, or just be able to use an awful lot of defensive castles with that discount that they've got. The stone is definitely the hardest resource to come by, while the Viper's mines, like the other Meso-Civ in the Aztecs, or these days there's probably more than one Meso-Civ. There's no access to cavalry, but they get a nice resource conservation bonus, whereas Aztecs get resource carry. Start with an extra villager, and less food as the mines, but ultimately, you know, that puts you ahead by a villager than all the other civs. Aztecs actually just get bonus gold, which makes, you know, being able to play gold heavy early on, or being able to skimp on villagers on it to get head and eco in other areas. So both the Meso-Civs have insane economic prowess and an archer infantry combo that would make everyone else jealous, even a lot of the new civilization players. So we'll probably see an almost complete use of cavalry use from our Franks player, while our Mayans player probably going to open with infantry, switch back to ranged, and then use a mix of the two from there. So we've got some real big boppers facing off today in Valas versus the Viper. So I think this bloke must be about one of the most well-known people from... he's Norwegian, isn't he? I'll just look that up quickly. Yeah. So the bloke's probably the most famous person from Norway at the moment. No offense to Norwegians, but... the Viper. Given that feudal age, Valas is not be far behind. Got a barracks here. Valas. The Viper was looking to open the spears there with upgrades, but then just opted to squeeze in the villager and then get the eco upgrade slightly later. No military production yet. Oh, Valas, in fact, he's actually going to go for a range, probably just to go skirmishes first. Because at least it can limit the potential for the Viper to play around his archers, which he is going for, as well as potentially disrupt small numbers of infantry in order to clear the way for a transition to cavalry. The skirmishers are a great unit to help you get to castle age, but they're not going to win you the game, not going to really win you fights with bigger and bigger skirmishes going on. The initial ones will be great against warding off the archers, but eventually the archer critical mass gets that good that, you know, you're going to have to just dive in with cavalry instead. I mean, in saying that, you can use skirmishes really well, but Franks, you know, they're one of the civs that's really kitted around using their cavalry and their unique unit in combo. I think they really got the world's best skirmishes as such. Yeah, so they are missing out on some of the final range techs as well. So the skirmishes don't quite scale that well into the late game. For them, well, the Viper, obviously his range, he's going to have access to basically all the techs there, except for anything related to being a mounted archer. No cavalry techs, just the melee damage techs in Blast Furnace line, because obviously they make great use of the infantry. So Viper walling himself in for the moment. Skirmish army for Valas moving out. It's really... Oh, he's now got on the stable, so he'll be able to go for, yeah, Scout Cav, Skirmisher. While the Viper having to go for Spearman Archer. Viper actually cancelling an Archer there for a sec. Deciding he might be a bit early to go to Castle. He's just holding off on the Archer production for the moment. We got 5 of them, there we go. So the upgrade finishing. Fletching coming out, so he can take good fights against the skirmishers who don't actually have any upgrades just yet. The archers actually outrange the skirmishers at the moment, even though they are fighting against a counter. If you are fighting while up on upgrades this early on, it's not too bad of a trade. So Viper having to lock the gate so he can actually get that repair done. Try and work away at Valas's Scout Cav. Taking another range. Looking to probably go to castle on a couple of villages now. Just adding a handful more archers for less for the time being. Just getting more vills, not worrying about military production. In fact, he'll probably be set to take a slightly quicker castle, considering the Viper getting a big archer ball here. And saying that, the Mine player, that age up won't be too far behind, and he'll be able to push out with a big archer ball, which will take crossbowmen on. And depending on how the Franks play is going, he's probably not going to upgrade the skirmishers. Not straight out of the gate. Probably be looking to transition to knights to really deal with the archers. With scout cavalry and skirmishers probably not going to hold up so well, especially against a civ. So really beeline towards them and potentially transition to plumed archers and eagle warriors and some skirmishers of their own. So the Mayan skirmish is actually going to be quite a bit stronger than the French skirmishers. While the French having access to the cavalry, and not just that, these guys are 20% tankier than they normally would be. The Franks probably one of the better civs trying to dive the stronger archer civs with cavalry. So yeah, they'll have among the tankiest cavs in the game. Skirmish is trying to fight archers, but I don't know if Valas has really got the numbers for this. He's going to castle. The Viper managing to squeeze his in pretty much the same time here. But military count definitely favours the Viper at the moment. Oh, Valas actually down by 3 villages. Must have cut eco here or something. So we got the stables transition. Maybe Valas has gone heavier on upgrades in the end. So we got the transition to Knights here for Valas, but he's going to start to really safeguard these villages because there's enough archers here to just about burst one of them down. So armor now. There's cavalry. Now actually got tier 2 armor. So did Valas cut eco to actually try and squeeze out armor upgrades there? Because he shouldn't be down on villages by 3. Unless he's gotten housed. By 2.5. Considering the Viper hasn't gone to the second town center yet. They had the same castle age timing, so I don't know why Valas is down on eco. Unless, yeah, he's overspent on an eco upgrade of some sort. Or just delayed the villagers to take the castle slightly quicker, but then he didn't get it any quicker than Viper, who pumped out a lot more army, I thought. Now Knights should be able to trade reasonably well in these crossbows, although the Viper has pretty much all the upgrades for those crossbows now as well. Just waiting on the second tier of armor upgrades for them. These Knights don't quite have all their damage upgrades, they do have all their armor upgrades, and they ultimately do win that trade, so Valas now pulling ahead in the fights, but we'll regroup everything and try and catch this crossbow ball, which is going to have a fair few additions now, so this might be a nice critical mass count if the Viper can get these guys together. Should be able to burst a knight down, I think in 2 volleys here. Should be nice. So Valas not going to want to engage until he can get another knight or 2. And maybe bring the scorpions in. Bring a mangonel as well. Now this is really going to up the ante here, because the splash on that can honestly take out these guys. If they're clumped tightly enough, probably take out the whole lot, or close to. Depending on how tightly stacked they are. So crossbows making their way across. One of the Bills getting sniped there by the Viper, and he's gone up to 3 TC. The Valas, for the moment's only gone up to 2. Kill count favouring the Viper at the moment. Viper doing a bit of a run by here if he can. Keeping tabs on the gold and the stone. Relic over here potentially. He's also keeping eyes on things over here, but Valas gonna try and creep forward. He knows that he can potentially force the Viper to have to bring everything together here. Maybe take some good fights before there is a real critical mass of monks, because the Meso Civs will tend to park these guys at the back of the army. Really rely on getting some good conversions off. There's not really any benefits for the Mayan monks, but Aztec monks end up about a little bit over twice as tanky as a regular monk with all the castle age techs. Mayans sort of you have to use them just because the fact that there's no cavalry options, not so much that they're actually any better than regular monks. Right, we're going to try and harass Valas in the meantime. Valas going to be able to push forward here. Try and work away at this town centre. Viper sort of needs to try and pick off one of these mangonels, and oh, that's a really nice volley from it. Big split there because the Viper now realises a split again, but this time not quite working out the way he wants. A couple of them going down. And the crossbow versus mangonel fight now really not going the Viper's way because Valas will top that guy up. Meanwhile, Valas teaming to push into the Viper here. Looks like he's going to get close to taking out this first town center. He's got plenty of knights to clear the repairers here. Ooh, as long as he doesn't splash on his knights, that can always be a bit of a problem there. Oops. So the Viper's army being cleaned up here. He's still trying to find a way through at the top of the base. So Valas momentarily safe there. There's a lot of mangonels still. And knights streaming in to back this up. So Valas seems to have a lot of go forward here, even though he's down 10 Vilpop. He's delayed the Viper immensely here. This is looking really good for him. He's still up in the military count. The crossbows having to come back over here. That fight that was over here really not going the Viper's way in the end. Getting the one mangonel for about 12 crossbows. The villager actually doing some good damage there to the mangonel. And now the town center should nearly able to pick it off. Viper not quite able to, Valas not quite able to finish off Viper's central town center, but he's eager to try and snipe this one over here on the stone, because he can deny a potential defensive castle, as well as stop this one finishing off the top here. The Viper's got to try and cut through some more. These guys, a little bit aimless at the moment. They need to probably come back and help reinforce here, I'd say. The Viper is just trying to keep on macroing through this and transition to infantry if he can. So he's going to get... actually, he's going to add a bit of a mix of units, really. Keep getting those crossbows, the infantry, the monks. That town center falling, the Viper having to back off to his 4th town center. Losing his 3rd one there. It looks like he's managed to catch one of the mangonels and the other. So that's a nice snipe for the Viper. So it looks as though he's held off Valas here. But in saying that, Valas is now starting to establish a base on the doorstep. Getting a couple more knights. And he's going to attempt to prevent that castle from going up. So the Viper going to have to go back on the gold, gathering more knights streaming in. Nonaga on the way. Sorry, a mangonel on the way. It's not Nonaga until it's upgraded. And crossbows to defend here for the Viper. Valas actually going to get that forging upgrade. So he hasn't actually taken the upgrade yet, the first damage upgrade for his knights. But the armor upgrades so far have really, I think, paid a dividend for him. Might not be able to prevent this wall off from going up by the looks of things. Another mangonel potentially deal a bit of damage here. One of the knights being converted really quickly there, so that's nice for the Viper, because he can potentially use this now to snipe the mangonel and the builder here. I think that's what he's going to try and do, bringing the archers back. Valas going to wall up, but the Viper actually going to destroy some of his palisades, so he can attempt to take out one of these mangonels. Got some knights there to defend from Valas, but even still, I think the one knight should be able to kill one of the mangonels in time. The repairer trying to bring him up through this, but it's not quite enough. The Viper should be able to finish off that defensive castle, and he's got a nice critical mass of crossbows. Once again, he's sort of forgotten about these guys for the minute. Valas in a nice position though. He's up 16 villagers through this push. So prior to that, he'd really slightly down on the villager count, but the Viper is now back up on 3 town centers, has a defensive castle, so he should be okay to go into Imperial Age.
Shot it.
One Eagle Scout just on 1 health up there. I do wonder if he'll be of any use, because if Valas doesn't actually attack him with a villager while he harasses, he can pick off a couple of villagers with that. 1 health sometimes is better than no health. At the same time, if Valas just focuses him down, it's just meant he's been a wasted 1 population this whole time. So it's much for muchness. So Valas barreling to 100 population, while villager pop, while the Viper just about to pass 80. And here we go, the Viper is actually just going to try and harass with him. And so, oh, there we go. Valas notices and focuses him down. It's only 1 health, so it's a quick end to that, but it could have been a lot worse. At lower elos, you probably would expect this whole lot to get cleared out. But at the same time, they probably wouldn't have left the Eagle Scout there. They probably would have gotten a kill to a wolf or something. Taking a fight with the bear. Now there's a gap here, so the Viper is actually attacking the house. Valas hasn't realised. And meanwhile, tempted to go for a town centre over here potentially. Being denied. Over the top Valas. Now, oh, still hasn't realised. So the Viper going to kill a couple of villagers here of Valas's. In fact, he's going to get more than a couple. He's really preventing him from staying at 100 vils. More of them falling now. So Valas still hasn't realised about this. Now, there we go. And it's a big garrison too in response. So that's a big economic loss now. Just for that small harass. And in fact, the Viper going to have track of when this gold is going to be taken. Getting a town centre down here. Valas has missed this. He should be able to interrupt it, but I think he just doesn't realise that it's there. He's getting a villager of the Vipers, but now it's taking a little while for him to come and clean this up. Is 2 knights going to be enough for this, or does he need to bring a third? Yeah, so a third joining the mix there. But Valas, unaware that there's a knight on his gold mine there, so perfect for the Viper. He's actually going to get a number of villagers there before Valas realises, and again, he's still struggling to stay at around 100 vil pop because the Viper's just harass and awareness here. This forward castle is going to go up. Transition to plumed archers now from the Viper, so these guys are a little bit faster than the regular archers. Valas finally realising, and he didn't even manage to clear out this army in the end. I mean, clear out this town centre in the end. He's brought the army back. Sort of missed the Viper's expansion over here. Plays now in Imperial Age. Things starting to really heat up. Castle to help protect this gold mine now. But Valas, alas, he had a villager lead of about 18, and now it's down to 4 from all the harass, and it looks as though the Viper is set to eventually catch up on Vils, because he is even on town centres here, and it's got an impressive archer ball there. The mangonels not able to land the shot just yet. Viper trying to kite through this and just make sure you can repair structures through it as well. That blacksmith is going to fall very soon, but a castle of Valas is down now. So the archers streaming forward, taking out a couple of villagers. Mangonels not really getting the money shot that they're looking for. Cavaliers now for our Franks player, so these guys are extremely beefy. Cav's going to hit this wood line, which wood and the stone not walled off at the moment. Last going to get a bit of harass done. Start destroying some more structures of the Vipers here. It's been a good contain, but he's missed this little expansion on the gold mine here. Town centre hidden away in the corner, and another one going up too. Cavalier sort of boxing themselves in. They'll be able to take out these pikes with ease, but I think they'll fall to the crossbows pretty quickly. These guys probably could have been on those villagers. So for Valas, this harass isn't quite getting him the value that he's looking for here. So yeah, he's keeping tabs on the stone mine, but at the same time, wood gatherers, these villagers, could be under a bit of threat. Ooh, and the Omega's starting to rack up a bit of value here. Quite scary in the face of the crossbows. Plumed archers trying to give these cavaliers the run around. These guys are a lot faster than a regular archer. You can think of them as an eagle archer, basically. So the Viper going to try and box him in the corner as best he can. Seems to be working because it's really preventing more than about 3 cavaliers from actually engaging on this. In fact, Valas probably needs to just retreat and let the Viper come to him. So it looks like it's a bloodbath that I think is going to really go the Viper's way. Valas should ultimately clean this up, but not before losing a lot more cavaliers than he should. So smart of the Viper for boxing them in there. Now there we go, it's going to get cleaned up. So Halberdier now, these guys should be a lot better kitted to deal with the Cavalier, considering they've got extra health, extra damage over the pikemen. Omega's getting some nice shots on. Ooh, there we go, that's what we're looking for. Throwing Axeman now out for the French play. So these guys are outranged by the archery range castle units of the Mayan player, but they also provide a nice anti-infantry defense for the Cavalier, so they're not just going to get butchered by halberdiers, get pulled straight down off the horses and speared to death. So Valas starting to try and harass the Viper. He's managing to keep a slight villager lead here and maintain this central map pressure, but the Viper is going to attempt to harass him on the outskirts soon here. And that mass of halberdiers, oh, they're just eating through very expensive cavalry. Even with the French, bonus health pool on the cavalry, fighting against halberdiers is really just a rough trade. And I mean, he should have access to paladin, shouldn't he? Yeah, he does have access to paladin, but he's not quite able to get there. And oh, GG. The Viper actually tapping out. He's just not quite able to hold on and repel this push. And even though he's got these eagles into Valas's base, I think he realizes probably won't get all the value in the world out of this. It might not be enough to turn around the siege creep here, because he'll be losing all of this for all of this. And from there he's largely split in half, and I think he'd lose all of this. So the Viper tapping out in that game. GG's. Well done.